Development Council, your gateway to digital transformation. We are an independent, vendor-neutral ISO IEC 1024 accredited certification body committed to helping individuals and organizations stay future-ready in a rapidly evolving world. GSDC is accredited by the Accreditation Board for International Certification Bodies, ABICB. For 10 years, we've certified more than 100,000 professionals across Europe, North America, Asia, and Africa, with our offices in Switzerland, the United States, and Singapore. Our programs are recognized by leading publications and podcasts, including Forbes, Tech Target, People Managing People. We offer 100-plus globally accredited certifications across emerging and in-demand domains like generative AI and emerging technologies, HR and learning and development, project management and agile Scrum, ISO and quality management, information security. Each GSDC certification is designed to empower professionals with confidence and help organizations stay competitive in a fast-changing landscape. Every certification is crafted with insights from 100-plus global advisory board members representing top universities and leading industry experts. Our certified professionals are trusted by 500-plus multinational companies, which help unlock better roles, faster promotions, and delivering cutting-edge expertise. We partner with 100-plus authorized training partners and 50-plus universities, supporting talent across all career levels, from entry-level to executive leadership. As a GSDC member, you gain lifelong access to interactive webinars, hands-on workshops, SME panels, and global summits. Join a vibrant community of 25,000-plus members and be part of our global events. Check our reviews on Trustpilot. We're trusted worldwide for quality, support, and impact. Whether you're aiming higher or building tomorrow's talent, GSDC is your partner in purposeful growth and impactful leadership. Visit our website to explore our offerings. GSDC, share the best practices and learn from the best practices. Welcome to the Global Skill Development Council, your gateway to digital transformation. We are an independent, vendor-neutral ISO IEC 1024 accredited certification body committed to helping individuals and organizations stay future-ready in a rapidly evolving world. GSDC is accredited by the Accreditation Board for International Certification Bodies, ABICB. For 10 years, we've certified more than 100,000 professionals across Europe, North America, Asia, and Africa, with our offices in Switzerland, AI and HR and learning and development, project management and agile Scrum, ISO quality management, information security professionals with confidence, and help organizations stay competitive in a fast-changing landscape. Every certification is crafted with insights from 100-plus global advisory board members representing top universities and leading industry experts. Our certified professionals are trusted by 500-plus multinational companies, which help unlock better roles, faster promotions, and delivering cutting-edge expertise. We partner with 100-plus authorized training partners and 50-plus universities, supporting talent across all career levels, from entry-level to executive leadership. As a GSDC member, you gain lifelong access to interactive webinars, hands-on workshops, SME panels, and global summits. Join a vibrant community. Check our reviews on Trustpilot. We're trusted worldwide for quality, support, and impact. Tomorrow's talent. GSDC, purposeful growth, impactful leadership. Practices and learn Welcome to the Global Development Council. GSDC IEC 102 accredited certification body to helping individuals and organizations management, information security. Each GSDC certification is designed to empower professionals with confidence and help organizations stay competitive in a fast-changing landscape. Every certification is crafted with insights from 100-plus global advisory board members, representing top universities and leading industry experts. Our certified professionals are trusted by 500-plus multinational companies, which have better roles, faster promotions, and delivering cutting-edge expertise. We partner with 100-plus authorized training partners and levels, from entry level to executive leadership. As a GSDC member, you gain lifelong access to interactive webinars, hands-on workshops, SME panels, and global summits. Join a vibrant community of 25,000-plus members and be part of our global events. Check our reviews on Pilot. We're trusted worldwide for quality, support, and impact. Whether you're aiming higher or building tomorrow's talent, GSDC is your partner in purposeful growth and impactful leadership. Visit our website to explore our offerings. GSDC, share the best practices and learn from the best practices. Welcome to the Global Skill Development Council, your gateway to digital transformation. We are an independent, vendor-neutral ISO IEC 1024 accredited certification body committed to helping in a rapidly evolving.
Hello
GSDC
everyone.
is
Session
accredited
now.
by the
Just allow
accreditation
me to
board
share my
international.
screen. Here we go. I hope my screen is visible to you all. Thank you everyone for joining today's session. This will be a last session of entire webinar series that we have scheduled. So thank you everyone for joining. And I welcome you all to GSDC Learning Advanced Prompt Engineering, that is unlock a master advanced prompt engineering in just 5 days. Yes, it was a very great experience to host this entire series. We had amazing panel speaker. It was scheduled from 29 November. So he would have with us. We can call him Gone. So I'm extremely sorry, I've lost my network earlier. Let me share my screen again. Yeah, I'm very happy to announce that today we'll be having Kenneth with us. Once again, we already had him as a speaker for our previous session, and he'll be taking us through the prompt from prompting to context engineering, small shifts, big results. So, before he could start with his session, I would like to introduce our hosting organization, GSDC. We known as Global Skill Development Council. We are vendor agnostic, vendor neutral. We are globally recognized certification body. We are accredited by NSI and ABICB. We do have 100 plus certification portfolio with us, and we have certified more than 250,000 professionals worldwide. We are associated with 1,000 multinational corporates and 30 plus universities across the globe. And we have 500 SMEs. Those are subject matter expert, industry experts. They work with us closely to design our deliverables. Also, we do have 100 plus authorized training partner across the globe. We have partners in Asia, Africa, Canada, America, and many other countries. So I would like to thank you those who have joined us through our training partner channel. So in case if you're looking for any training program for yourself, you can reach out to our training partner. I've already shared the link in the chat box. You can check it out and you can reach out to them for further information or more inquiries regarding the training programs. A special thanks to our official media partner, World Press Hub, for covering all our events and press releases. As I mentioned earlier, that we do have 100 plus certification portfolio with us, which includes certification on emerging technologies, agile and DevOps, quality and compliance, learning and development, digital transformation, and so on. In case if you're looking for any of these certification in order to upskill yourself, you can definitely reach out to a learning advisor, or you can explore our website that is www.gsdcouncil.org to get more details and to check all offerings that GSDC has for all of you. So, what benefits you'll be getting with this certification? So, you'll be a GSDC member for a lifelong. With that, you'll be getting certificate upgrade, and you'll be having access to all our workshop, boot camps, and you'll be getting free access to all our exclusive learning program that we do have. With that, you'll be getting implementation resources, speaker invites, and newsletter. So, do grab this opportunity and do sign up yourself for the certification. I have already shared the link in the chat box. You can check it out. So, without any further delay, let me tell you all more about Kengan. He's a widely known as Kengan. We can call him. He is an internationally recognized author, speaker, and consulting professional with over 4 decades of experience in technology. Since beginning his career in 1984, he has served in role ranging from individuals contributor to executive management, equipping him with a deep understanding of both strategy and execution. Renowned for his clarity and practical insights, Kenneth is highly regarded by customers and practitioners alike for helping organizations to manage expectations, deliver value, and achieve tangible results. It's my privilege as your host to welcome him today and invite you again from his wealth of knowledge and experience. So we are delighted to have you, Kangan, with us today. You can have the handover of the virtual speaker now.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And it's great to have everybody here today. Thank you for making the time. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to make this a very valuable session for you. As we start off, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can actually see what I'm talking about as opposed to me just blathering into the dark abyss of the web. So should be seeing my screen right about now. Okay. I'm going to be pivoting back and forth between different screens and things like that. So don't fret. It'll all be here because it's all going to be on the same screen. It's no matter whether it's evening, morning, or afternoon, whatever time zone this finds you in, welcome. Um, we're gonna have some fun today. So it doesn't matter what level of user you are from an AI perspective. There's something in this for everybody. And I think that some of the tips that I'm going to provide you with will be very helpful in your AI journey. Because, quite frankly, even us who are, you know, interacting with AI on a regular basis, it is a journey. There's lots of developments happening. It's not a static field. And even what we said, is the current state of AI a mere 3 months ago. Well, that's not even true today. We are continuing to innovate. We are continuing to see new developments from the providers. And things get richer, things get better, and that also presents us with some challenges, which is one of the reasons why we do training. So hang on to your seats. So here's just a little bit from a mechanical perspective about me. I'm not going to read this to you, and actually most everything that's in the deck, I'm not going to read to you verbatim. I'm going to trust that you're able to actually read. So I hope you'll end up doing that. And Pradem, thank you for the introduction. I really appreciate it. So I'm the founder of Pretty Simple Group based in Portland, Oregon, and my intention is to make things pretty simple. Imagine that. It's right in the name. I really enjoy being able to help people have insights into how technology impacts their lives, how it can be useful, how it can drive value for organizations, and how we can actually work smarter, not harder, and use all of this stuff to our advantage. So that's really what I'm out to do. For today's session, these are our broad objectives, and I'll give you a moment to actually look through these. This is really the essence of what it means for us to be able to go through and actually make the shift from simple prompting to context engineering. Now, context engineering might actually sound a little bit intimidating, but it's not. And I'll talk about both the technical and the non-technical aspects of this. Fortunately, you do not need to be a technical whiz in order to make this work. You just need normal skills and the ability to think. And I'm trusting that each of you has that. So there we go. We're off to a great start. Now it's accessible for everybody. So our agenda here is we're going through and we're establishing some context about what we're going to do. And, it's no pun intended with regards to context engineering. Then we're actually going to go live through some common scenarios. How can this be useful to us? How can we increase the level of utility that we get from our LLM tools? And then wrap up and give you some next steps, as well as some resources that you'll be able to use. So what we're going to do today is we're going to discuss the difference between prompting and context engineering. We're going to go beyond the basics and have some simple and repeatable guidance for how to improve your both the prompts as well as the outputs that you get from the LLM. So we'll do a before and after. So we'll use a simple prompt and then we'll use an enhanced prompt so we can actually see what the difference is. And then we'll also look at how you can naturally extend a conversation with your chosen LLM, as well as we'll examine a giveaway that I'm making available to you to be able to practice on your own. And all this is being done live. So we're actually going to use Claude, Anthropic's LLM, for the purposes of our workshop today. And the interesting thing is I have not used any of these prompts in Claude yet. So what we're going to see is the actual, okay, this is exactly what Claude gives us back. So you're going to get a chance to actually experience it right along with me. If nothing else, it'd be interesting. So, and hopefully some fun too as we go along. Okay, so on establishing some context, most of us know about basic prompting, right? So I can open up, I can take and I can go to Claude here, and I can go through and I can, type in the box and say, hey, I've got a question, whatever, and I'm going to get a response back. Well, it kind of works like that, right? So I can go through and say, what is telekinesis? I don't know what that is, so let me find out. I prompt that, and Claude's going to give me a response. I could also say, tell me about fill in the blank, which in this case is popular tourist activities in Vietnam. How can you tell if a mushroom is poisonous? Interesting question. So if you like living off the land, okay, that might be of interest to you. Design a form for me to track RSVPs of my wedding reception. Now, I'm not getting married, but some of you might. So you might actually want to have a form that you can use to track your guests and relevant information about them, when the RSVP invites went out, and did you get a response, and when was that? And, for those of you that are really detail oriented, and probably going to drive your fiance nuts, trying to manage all of the moving parts around it, right? So those are basically simple prompts. You would expect you're going to get straightforward answers and responses back. Some are just text, some would actually be like an artifact. But in a lot of cases, we end up struggling because we're really not getting the answer that we want back from the LLM. Too high level or didn't quite understand what we were intending. And this is why context engineering is so important. Because instead of relying on just a simple query, now we're going to be able to add additional information that's going to help the LLM understand what we're trying to get at and what would be most valuable for us. So it does take a little thought and planning. So when we talk about prompt engineering, and for the early days of ChatGPT and the advent of LLMs being publicly available on the general internet, what we were talking about was prompt engineering. And a lot of people took this as being able to, oh, well, if I just write some flowery language, that's going to help. No, actually, it does not. It does not help. It actually hurts. Because the thing that we end up finding is that a lot of the descriptions and the wording we use is not necessarily straightforward. It ends up being a source of ambiguity where the LLM can actually read all of the individual things that we enter into the text box, and which are called tokens, right? So we basically anything you write gets put into a stream and then sliced up into individual tokens. So the high level view of it is as each of those tokens is read and interpreted, and then the LLM will, based upon the tokens it's seen and all of the training data that has occurred, it's actually going to go and make sense of it. Well, so the more that we try to embellish or use flowery language, we actually do ourselves a disservice because we're not helping the LLM understand the question that we're trying to ask. So in other words, get to the point. And this is part of what prompt engineering was around. So it's what are the creative ways that I can go through and ask questions? Now, I have no issue with creative ways of asking questions. I think that we should do that, but that does require some thought. And this is how we try to get the right kinds of outputs back from the LLM to meet our need. And you can see to the right-hand side here, it says, I'm going to give you something and I want you to analyze this feedback and suggest areas for improvement. So that would be a text prompt that ends up going to the LLM and possibly has an attachment or something else working with it, where it now gets evaluated. Okay, so context engineering. Now this is a bit of a chunk of text, but I'm going to make it a little bit simpler for you. So what we're actually doing is we're actually shaping the prompt. So we're also conditioning the interaction with the LLM. This is important for us because this actually helps us go through and ensure that we're providing all of the relevant context, and that's why we call it context engineering. We're providing the relevant context so that the LLM can actually read our prompt, understand what's around it, and then use those materials. This could include a number of different factors. So this helps us establish both guardrails as well as additional information required in order to go through and handle our prompt properly. Now, if I were to visualize this, I would say this is your TLDR on it. Yeah, too long, didn't read, right? So prompt engineering and context engineering are like peanut butter and jelly. They go well together. And if you're doing it well, actually, you're going to be thinking about both. So yes, the prompt is kind of like the centerpiece because it gets at the heart of what is it that you want to be able to get out of the interaction. But look at all the other things that actually go around it. So you've got certain instructions, formatting, a certain amount of background that you might want to provide for the LLM to examine and provide you information about, knowledge and assessments, all of this stuff. So prompt engineering is about designing a question. Context engineering is about creating an environment around the question. so that you're going to get the right level of value back from the LLM. Now, these can actually be packaged in something you're going to hear people refer to shots, like one shot, two shot, few shot. So the whole idea here is that, yes, there is you type text, you hit enter, and then the LLM does something, you get something back. But that's only one part of it. If we think about this as conversation, this now gives us a better context in which to think about, okay, I probably want to work from an intent, some intention, instead of, well, just give me an answer. Q&A is okay, and that would be an example of something that you do as part of a one shot here, right? Some single example where you might want to take and get, I'm going to give you a document, I want you to summarize it. Give me a summary back, no more than 100 words. Okay, so that's one way of doing a one shot where you actually go through. It's simple, it's quick to implement, it's pretty straightforward. The LLM knows how to go through and respond to your request and give you the output that you're looking for. Now, you might actually have something where you've got an ordered list of data, or I should say you have got a pile of data, but it's not put into an ordered list. Well, you might actually be able to put it into an ordered list using the LLM by providing the proper prompt. You can go through and say, okay, this is my data, give me this back, formatted and sorted in a certain way. Okay, it can do that. You don't need to use a spreadsheet or a database in order to do that. It will use its own scratch memory in order to be able to make that work. And this is going to be important for us here in just a minute. And then the multi-shot might be an example of something that, okay, I need to prepare something that I'm going to use as part of my daily work. But you can't just ask for what the end result is, because there might be intermediate steps that you need to go through in order to actually get the result you're looking for. So a multi-shot prompt is where you would actually go through, provide examples or intermediate stages of work where you go from a high-level request down to, okay, this is the thing that I actually want. So looking at it from the perspective of that, prompts can actually be divided up into logical bits of work where the outputs from one response from the LM can actually be used as inputs as part of another prompt. Okay. Now, one of the things that you, especially if any of you've heard of agentic behavior. So when we talk about tools that are like workflow tools or coding tools, and this is more of a bit of a side note, but I like this slide because it actually shows and provides additional bits of context around what's actually happening underneath the hood. You don't really need to know this or memorize this, but it's useful from a contextual perspective for us to kind of frame what's happening. So the left-hand side is traditional prompt engineering, right? A single query that we're going to go through and say, tell me about popular tourist spots and things to do in Vietnam. Okay, so that ends up being our system prompt. And then we end up we send that along and we get back what that ordered list is. Okay, fairly simple, right? Now, underneath the hood, this whole thing, this possible context to give the model. This shows all of the things that go into what an LLM does. Now, why am I taking the time to tell you about this? Well, because if you think about it, this is just giant software, right? And it has a lot of information available to it. Not just the information that we give it that we want it to go to work on, but rather this has the information that is come from all of the training data, from any of the documents or drawings, images, map data. Lots of different types of data can be ingested. And you can see here, as we're looking through here, we can even invoke tools. We can have tools which actually go through and planning tools. We can go through and do data scrubbing tools, scraping tools, where we can go acquire data from different websites across the internet. All of these tools can provide us data back. So an LLM actually has a certain number of tokens that it can actually manage in order to be able to do the work. We call this the context window. So the context window is reflective of all of the things that the LLM already has access to, as well as all of the things that we provided. Okay. So this is harkens back to like the early days of the PC, right? The IBM PC. So when DOS was around, you had 640K memory, and anything that ran on the PC had to fit within that 640K space. I mean, who needed more than 640K of memory? Famous last words. Well, actually, it turns out we needed a lot more, and today's PCs have many gigabytes worth of working RAM and many terabytes worth um, of disk just sitting around, right? So the the thing that we're seeing is that, especially with the context windows here, is that context windows are sized, and when the vendors talk about their LLMs, they will say, okay, I've got a whatever size, 250K, uh, 1 GB context window. That's the number of tokens that it can actually hold. So the reason that this is important to us is that everything that we might add, so yes, we have a prompt, right? So we're going to go through and we're going to load some basic information that the LLM needs to be able to function, right? And then we're going to go ahead and make our prompt that we're going to use that we want the information about. Well, we might add additional files and we might add additional tools. Each one of these adds context. It adds additional tokens to that set of working memory, to that set of working tokens. As the closer that we get to actually reaching the maximum number of tokens, the LLM is going to go through and say, okay, hang on for a second. Now, it's not going to tell you this necessarily. In some cases, you'll actually get the feedback, but in some cases, it's going to go, okay, hang on. We've done enough stuff here. What I'm going to go through and do is I'm going to summarize everything that we've talked about so far, and I'm going to shrink the number of tokens that are in use. So think about it. This is a way of being able to go through and effectively manage memory. And this is why oftentimes if you have long sessions, long chats with your LLM, it starts to act funky. Why? Because what we're doing is we're summarizing all of the activities that happen up to date. So effectively, the LLM forgets the detail. Well, don't you remember, that I asked you about this, 3 hours ago? No, actually, it doesn't, because it's purged. It took whatever you were talking about, summarized it, and left that now as part of its working memory. That would be enough in order to be able to continue the conversation with you. But oftentimes it's not. It ends up being a problem for the LLM because it starts distracting you. So the key point that I wanted to get across here is that this summarization process is always happening. So our being able to effectively manage context will help ensure that the LLM has the right information to be able to respond to the things that we need to do. And sometimes that would actually mean that we need to remind it of something we've actually talked about before and provide the additional level of detail necessary in order to be able to interact with us and get the answer to the questions or get the right outputs that we're looking for. Okay. So we're going to go through three major use cases here. They will be focused on problem solving, analysis, and innovation. Why did I choose these? Well, they're typical things that, number one, if it's in our personal life or our professional life, we're going to ask things like this. We're going to need some stuff. And these are also common types of activities that transcend individual roles. So individual contributors, executives, managers, leaders, all do these things, right? So this is why these use cases are going to be part of what we do. Now, these three bullets here are talk about the specific benefits that you get by focusing on these particular domains. And that's one of the reasons why we want to be able to use the LLM as a partner. And in a very real sense, I do talk about it as working with a very smart partner, someone that actually knows a lot of information and can actually help me work through something that I'm thinking about or dealing with or designing or trying to fix. All of the information is available to it. And that ends up being valuable for me because now instead of just trying to work it out on my own, I actually have a partner I can bounce ideas off of. And this is one of the key ways I think that we need to start thinking about how we use LLMs to our maximum benefit. So if we're actually looking at the problem solving example, these are some of the areas that we could actually take on working with and using our LLM to help us with. Decision support, prioritization, preparing for meetings, doing meeting summaries, all sorts of great stuff that goes along with problem solving. Keeping records, there are lots of great things we can do. We look at from an analysis perspective, summarization, comparing alternatives, coming up with pros and cons lists, interpreting data, building charts, reports. These are things that LLMs can actually do really, really easily and save us the burden of having to do it ourselves. Are you an Excel wizard where you just love creating these pivot tables all the time and building charts and dashboards and stuff like that? Well, if you are, great. Hope you enjoy it, but many of us don't. And we want somebody to do it for us. So we have a partner potentially in our LLM that will help us go through and actually build out the things that we want to use to be able to get the right stuff done. From an innovation perspective, okay, have you ever been trying thinking about, okay, I've been asked to do this, but I really don't know where to start. Hey, guess what? You now have a partner. Ask your LLM. Hey, my manager has asked me to do X. Where should I start? And this is actually a really great way of going through and trying to get new ideas, trying to take and condition an idea, trying to ask about, well, gee, what are the potential downsides of this idea? So I've got an existing process or a customer journey that I need to take in and fix because there's some issue that's causing friction with whoever the customer or user is. How can I fix that? Ask an LLM, provide the information and get feedback, or do some scenario-based planning on a potential set of futures. How might something work out? Kind of like scenario gaming. And in this case, like future casting. What might happen? Compare the alternatives. These are great ways that you can actually use a lot of the capabilities that LLMs provide. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually go through number one, we're going to understand the different needs and drivers associated with each of these scenarios. Then we'll actually use an initial prompt that is, again, something typical that people would use to actually engage with the LLM. And then we'll do a refined prompt to actually look and see what the difference is. And then we'll play with some ideas around, well, gee, what are some of the other things that we might use the LLM to get or might ask the LLM for? Right? So this is a good way for us to be able to think about how we can engage. Okay, so there's our basics. Let's now move on to our first example in problem solving. Okay, so first we're going to start off with the context here, right? So a manager has some competing initiatives, and let me just start out by saying these are relatively simple. The idea is not to confound you with a bunch of detail, but rather provide something which is illustrative of the point and easy for us to kind of read, get into, and then engage with Claude about, right? That's the intent. So if it looks like it's overly simplistic, it is, and that's wholly intentional. So starting off with the context here is manager has competing initiatives for Q4. What do you focus on first? Because one thing I can tell you in working with my customers on where to do continuous improvement is you do not have either the time, money, or attention to do everything all at once. You've got to pick and choose, because if you don't, it's going to end up being a problem. So where we're going to go to next is by saying, hey, help me decide which of these 5 initiatives to work on this quarter. Okay, so with that, I'm going to pivot over here to Claude. Okay, here we go. And then I'm actually going to go through. I'm going to pick out I've got a document here, which is, got to get to the right directory. And I'm going to pull here, which is I'm going to drop it in the window. This is going to be our candidate initiative list. Okay, this has the entries in it. So I wanted to demonstrate being able to attach a document, to attach some sort of artifact to the prompt in order to be able to ask the question. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to copy the prompt here from my little handy reference document. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste this into the window. Okay, help me decide. Now let's see what Claude says based on this. Claude is thinking. Now, notice the interesting thing about this. Claude goes through and says, hey, I'm happy to do this, but I might actually have a number of questions I need to answer in order for us to go through and provide you with feedback. Now, let's actually go through and look at the initiative list itself. Okay, so these are the initiatives that were on the list. So Claude needed more detail in order to come up with what the list was. So, but rather than go through and answer the specific questions, we're going to go through and now I'm going to provide a different prompt, which would be the refined prompt. So I'm going to say, hey, I want you to act as in this role. So in this case, as a strategy consultant. So wearing that hat, just like you would go through and find a subject matter expert who is experienced in this area. Okay, go through and use these criteria and then give me back something which looks like this. Okay, so I'm going to go through and copy that prompt instead of actually continuing with the previous having to put a bunch of inputs in. I'm going to come through here. I'm going to go through, paste it. Okay, there we are. And now I'm going to execute. Claude's going to think. And then all of a sudden now I've got a scoring matrix. Right, so it looks at it in terms of the cost, impact, urgency, total score. So now we also have some conversational bits, some summarization, some discussion around why those are, why the priorities are listed the way they are. So this is a very good way of being able to go, and I could actually turn this into an artifact. So rather than just saying, hey, give me the evaluation, I could have said, hey, can you prepare me an artifact? And I'll just go ahead and, can you prepare me an artifact with this guidance as a markdown file? So I've just asked for that. Now it's going to go through, and now I can actually, this is a distinct file here. I can go through and copy this and save it as a markdown file. I can put this into Google Docs. I can put it into Microsoft Word. I can take and use this anywhere that I want to. Boom. And it's worth noting that from an LLM perspective, markdown files are kind of like the lingua franca. It's basically the native way that the LLM will have a very easy time being able to look at and interpret this information inside inside documents. So providing it markdown files is really good. And it's much easier to read than standard like HTML or other binary format documents, like a Word document or what have you. And it also has the ability to be essentially have decorations, right? So it uses similar mechanisms to like HTML, heading 1, 2, 3, but it doesn't have all the complicated tags so that you could easily mess it up and then render the file unreadable or not quite what you'd intended when you were building the file. So there we have an artifact, and I can publish that if I wanted to, make it available. You can see I can download it as a PDF, download as Markdown. I could add this to the project knowledge by just saying copy to project. And all of a sudden now that actually becomes part of the project itself. So some of the other things we might want to do when we're thinking about this is we might be able to, hey, let's build a decision matrix. Let's build an initiative charter for the one that we are working with. Let's build a risk register or maybe a communication plan. These are all things which are natural extensions of the work that we just did. So we can start from what a simple request is, and Claude's really great. And I'm working with Claude here, right? So I could use any one of the LLMs and say, hey, this is the task, and all of a sudden, boom, we're now off to the races, and it's asking me, hey, would you like me to build this? Would you like me to build that? The tools love to build. Like seriously, they love to build things. And it's actually, in a certain sense, you have to constrain. It's like, whoa, boy, we don't need you to do all of that. So that is working through around problem solving. Okay, how do we take and make prioritization something easier for us? The next thing we're going to do is walk down through and talk about doing some analysis. So our prompt for Claude is somebody's been asked to evaluate two vendors. So we got two vendor descriptions. So I want to be able to go back to my manager and say, okay, here's these vendors and here's some information about them. So I don't want to necessarily spend time doing a bunch of analysis, but let's get some information about it. So I'm going to take these vendor descriptions and I'd like you to summarize them. So we're going to go back to Claude. I'm actually going to start a new conversation. So I'm going to go through and let me get to number 2. Okay, here's my prompt. Now I got to provide the vendor descriptions. That would be an important part of the process. Okay, let me get back to here. I will grab the files. Okay, here's vendor A and vendor B. I'm going to add those to the context window, right? So now those are available to us, and I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. So it just as what we've asked, Claude's going to go through and summarize these two. So we're going to see the output here momentarily. I could actually have gone through and said, hey, please create an artifact for me, which summarizes these. And then in the artifact pane, that's where you'd show up and you'd see the output, which you could, again, export in any one of the different formats. So here are the two different, here are the two outputs. And I'll show you what here's our description for vendor A. And here's our description for vendor B. And Claude went through and did the summarization just as we asked, including basically kind of like a wrap up around looking at the differences. It did what we asked for, but this is probably not going to quite get to really what we wanted to talk about, and especially talk with our manager about. So the thing we want to do now is actually go through and say, okay, great. You are an analyst. You're fulfilling a particular role, and you're going to choose between these vendors. Help me by providing this analysis, and then give me a summarization paragraph. So again, instead of going through doing what we did before, which would be extending this conversation, I'm going to introduce a new prompt here with this specific guidance. Okay, and let's see what Claude does. Okay, so we got a side-by-side analysis, strengths, weaknesses, risks, and then recommendations for a mid-sized company. Just like what we asked for in the prompt. And based upon this, we could actually go through and now say, oh, wow, that's actually pretty cool. So some other supporting artifacts we could build just based upon what we've done so far is a comparison table, an executive summary deck. We might put together a decision log. That way we can actually track based upon what the vendors provided information for us. This is why we're going to decide to use vendor A as opposed to vendor B. Document it. So part of good governance, being able to show your work and, have people understand that you're not doing something which is just, I like vendor A, or they bought me dinner and now that's who we're going to use. No, this is a great way of being able to go through and consider what there is to do without actually having to, be all wrapped around the axle on the specific detail. Okay, so with that, let's continue on. So we're now going to go through example 3, which is organized around innovation. So in terms of the prompts for Claude, so the context here is we've got an employee onboarding process and we're not necessarily happy with it. It's not working as well as we want it to work. Feels kind of old and clunky. How can we spiff it up? And I want some creative, I want some creative ideas to make it more memorable and impactful for the new joiner, right? So some examples of a common prompt might be, hey, give me some ideas. So just as we did before, we're going to go back into Claude and we're going to start a new chat. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to put this in. I'm going to copy my prompt. I'm going to paste it. And then I'm going to add the guidance here around number 3, which is our onboarding process description. So I'm going to go ahead and add that document so that it's now part of the project file. Come on, do what I asked you to. Okay. Okay, there we go. All right, so now if I hit this, I can actually look at it, and this is the description of what the existing onboarding process is. Okay. So based upon that, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. I'm going to give it to Claude, and then Claude's going to give me some feedback. Let's see what Claude says. Pondering. Yes, I like that. Okay. So, hey, here's some ideas. And these are not bad ideas. Cultural integration, success metrics, pre-boarding. It's actually pretty detailed. And you could start with this as a starting point for being able to have another ongoing discussion about, oh, gee, what can we do? But rather than doing that, the thing that we're going to do next is we're actually going to go through and look at a refined prompt. And in this case, we're going to ask Claude to act as a creativity coach and generating ideas by borrowing from other domains. So this is the prompt that we're going to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this prompt. And then I'm going to add it to Claude. And this is going to change the nature of the interaction here. So we're continuing to work with the onboarding document that we just gave him, but now we're going to take a completely different tack. So we're going to go left, or turn right and try something new. Okay, so let's see what it says. Okay, tasting menu, quality control. So you'll see that instead of taking the traditional tack of, oh, well, this is stodgy onboarding. No, we're actually introducing something which is actually quite creative. From the concert musician. Sectional rehearsals before full orchestra. Yeah, interesting. Encore performance. The underlying pattern. And notice what it's done here. Notice how all 3 domains emphasize preparation, progressive complexity, and performance and context. So this is actually a really cool way of being able to have the LLM effectively take on a persona, take on a role, and think about things from there. And I don't think it's a stretch of the imagination to say that any of us could actually benefit from being able to break out of our existing ways of thinking and be able to now get new inputs, which actually show that, wow, I never thought about it like that before. And that's actually one of the best things that either an analyst can hear, or actually, I think that your LLM can do to help break existing patterns and give you a new way to think about whatever it is that's important to us. So based upon this, we might actually have an improvement idea register that we could take on, have a new onboarding playbook, create a journey map, a notes register for retrospectives for every time you go through an onboarding session, capturing that detail. These are all things we can ask of our LLM to create for us, all based upon the context that we're giving it. So, and again, the more stuff we give it, the more context we use up. So context management is actually really critical for us. And that's why context engineering as a topic is really why we wanted to talk about today. So in terms of wrapping this whole thing up, from a summarization perspective, it's easy to type a prompt and get an answer back. The key piece of work that we need to do as individuals is to actually think through things in advance and start building the right context so that we get back the kinds of responses from the LLM that we think we need. And also will serve as an effective starting point for the follow-on work. Small shifts in thinking are really all that's required, because rather than just, firing and forgetting it, no, it's a if you were going to answer, if somebody asked you that same question, what would you want to know in order to provide your answer? Well, that's really the kind of the same interaction model that we want to have when we think about interacting with the LLM. And then this is something you can actually start today. You do not need additional information. I think just by looking and seeing what we've done, you can actually get to work on this and start using these principles now. The more practice you get at it, the better off you're going to be. Okay, key points to remember. This is not a technical exercise. This is a thinking exercise. Anytime you come up with a good set of prompts or that demonstrate a pattern, one of the things you can actually do is ask the LLM after you did it, say, wow, this session was really valuable. Can you summarize for me how we went from point A to point B? So I can save that as an interaction or as a prompt pattern. And your LLM will help you do that. So you don't even need to do the hard work. You've got a partner that's going to help you do it. And last thing is to treat prompts like tools, not one-off questions. So I've got some resources for you. So number one, I want you to be able to have the deck as well as a prompt improvement checklist. So that's one of the things I can actually go through here, and I can actually show you. I just got to get to the right place. But see, the only thing I would ask you to do is just so I can actually manage the queue better, is if you would go through and go to this URL. And in this case, it's that's an old version of the slide. Um, I'll correct that. Um, it's yeah, advanced prompt engineering and practice. Yeah, that's actually correct. Um, Let me go ahead and open up the checklist. Okay, it hasn't opened up yet. Okay, here it is. So here's your prompt improvement checklist. So the checklist itself actually has some detailed guidance about uh, what it basically six-stepper, right? Stop that. Okay. Six steps with individual things you can use. That these are your prompts to go through and look at the prompt you're actually creating, and some of the ways you can actually make it more meaningful. So just go ahead and fill out the form. I'll get the request, and then I'm happy to send both the slide deck that we walked through today, the individual documents that I use to copy the prompt out of, as well as the prompt improvement checklist. Happy to do that for you. And the other thing is I've got a podcast, and that's available here. Podcast is totally free, available on all the major podcasting platforms, and lots of interesting stuff in there. So, and I talk a lot about AI on the podcast, so that's could be fun as well. And with that, I will say thank you for your time and attention. It's been great. I hope you got a lot out of this. And Purnam, I think we're ready now to start some Q&A. So let's get it going.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Kenneth, for such amazing session. I can see a lot of comments that we are getting for amazing
Okay.
session that we had with you. Yes, it's good to see, right? I would like to request all the participants drop your questions, whatever questions you have in your mind. We still have 15 minutes, so drop your questions right away so we can take it. So, Kenneth, I can see some questions that we have received earlier during the session.
Yeah.
Should I go ahead and read it?
Please.
Okay, great. Tushar is asking how would the LLM behave if the prompt is great but the context is poor, and the prompt is good. Sorry, the prompt is poor but the context is great. Vice versa.
Well, so I think that if the prompt is poor and the context is great, it's going to do the best job it can to be able to answer the question. Now, the prompt being poor, I think that we have to ask like uh, what would be an example of a poor prompt? So let's go back to Claude, and I could go back to my first example, uh, or I'll just use the onboarding one. So we had an onboarding process. So an example of a poor prompt might be, "What are your thoughts on this?" And anybody could actually look at this, like another human being could take and look at the process script. What are your thoughts on this? Uh, and first response might be, "Well, I don't know." So you're providing enough information to be able to make observations, make suggestions, provide feedback on something. But the question, what are your thoughts on this? It's sufficiently high level and ambiguous that anything that you say could actually be a valid response to it. So that would be an example of a really good prompt and or a really bad prompt, but has having sufficient context. Now let's consider the reverse, where we got good context. You provided a lot of um, thought into the question that you want, but you might not have sufficient context. There is the possibility that the LLM might engage in a hallucination, which is where it might make something up. And that is totally possible, which is why anytime you interact with the LLM, you need to think about it from the perspective that it might be doing that. So you have to vet the sources of data as well as the conclusions that it comes to. You just can't take them at face value. But the key thing is, if you don't recognize that you've not provided enough context, then you're going to trust that it's getting its data from somewhere and acting on it. So part of it is our responsibility to make sure that we're doing the appropriate level of vetting and that whatever we're going to ask it to respond to, that it has the information it needs in order to be able to do that. So, but it's both potential downside from a tool perspective, but more it's a downside from our perspective because we now need to be responsible for managing the context. It's only as good as what we provide it to be able to go do the work on.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for answering this one, Kenneth, very greatly. Moving forward to the next question, before that, I would like to address the concern our participants are raising regarding the link that you have shared earlier. They're facing
Sure.
some 500 error, and I believe the URL is not working. They are mentioning about that. Can you have a look and can you help us?
Sure. 1 second. While we do that, uh, let me go. I'll actually just bring it up right now because I thought I had fixed that. Ah, yes. Okay. This is it. So it's FPTCE, from prompting to context engineering. I'll correct that in the final version. And I'll go ahead and paste this into a document so that it's easier to see. Okay, that's the URL. Well, what's the next question?
Wonderful. Thank you very
Sorry
much.
about
Really
that.
appreciate that. I believe they will able to access through it now.
Yeah,
Do let us know if you're facing any issue, dear participants. So moving forward to the next question, Kenneth.
yeah.
We have received this question from Richard. Are any tools or frameworks you recommend to streamline the process of context engineering for practical use?
So there's a tool that's yes and no. Not necessarily that I would recommend. I think that so from it depends on the work you're doing. So I could actually show you one here. And let me look up context bunny. Context buddy. So this particular tool actually goes through. This is really designed more for folks that are doing development-oriented work, uh, where you would go through and actually fill out these guys, and then you could actually go through and then copy, and it would actually format your prompt and put that on the clipboard, so you could actually put it into the LLM. So it's not bad, but in a lot of cases, it's developers would use this that are doing uh, basically AI assisted development, right? So this is the way that they would interact with it, and this is the audience that this was targeted to. You could certainly use this, and I'll go through and paste this to the document as well, so you can see it. So context, but it's actually pretty useful, and it might be overkill for what most people need.
Great. Shall we move to the next question?
Sure.
Thank you very much. Um, we have got another question across live platform.
Hmm.
Okay, Victoria is asking, what's your approach to handling ambiguous or incomplete data when crafting prompts?
It's a good question. So number one, I think that we're always at risk of not having sufficient data, especially if you've got a very detailed question. So in some cases, you might actually want to go through and operate off of a subset of data. So you might actually try, and so I did this once with a customer that I was working with, where instead of trying to get like the feedback from hundreds or thousands of people, you could actually work on in selecting a subset of users to get a sample-based set of data that you could work with. And by communicating to the LLM that this is a sample of data of a total pool, you could ask what the statistically relevant number would be of that user pool in order to be able to figure out, okay, I can get, instead of having to go through and do 200 surveys, I could do 10 surveys with a limited set of data and then still get something back which is representative of what the entire population might look like. So that's one way, especially if you're talking about hard data that you might want to assess. For other things, you can provide things which are close to it and related to it and have the LLM actually make inferences about, well, compare this to what might actually be happening in this domain. But ultimately, you're going to be the person that drives the interaction. So you have to think to yourself whether or not there is enough data and enough of the right quality data in order to reduce the ambiguity. The more you do to frame the prompt so that it actually goes through and ensures that whatever you do provide it, it looks at it properly. That's our primary defense around resolving ambiguities.
Great. Thank you very much, Kenneth, for answering this one. We'll be taking few more questions as we still
Sure.
have time. So
Yeah.
I request participants, please drop your questions. And until then, I can see that question that we have got across live. Um, how can teams integrate prompt engineering practices into existing workflows without showing productivity? Asked by Sam.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and actually put the prompts in here, or excuse me, put the links in here for folks, just so it's easier. So that's for both the download URL as well as Context Buddy. Okay, so if you're figuring that this is going to slow your workflow down, then we need to, I think you're doing something wrong. For the most part, the thing you should be able to find is that you're performing actions as part of a workflow, and you encounter a question, a problem, or an issue that you want to research and find out how to address it. So that's your target of opportunity for engaging the LLM and being able now to either come up with a quick prompt and then work down through it and getting to successive levels of detail, because you're now either going to provide additional context in the form of documents or data, or looking at other data sources that are publicly available on the internet. And then using that as okay, great. I now got an answer to my question. I know where the data came from. I've documented it. I can continue with my flow of work. Okay, that's the primary way I would expect that you use this, unless you're actually building a workflow using a workflow tool, which is now driven underneath the covers using LLMs, connecting the workflow to the LLM itself, passing data, getting data back, and then moving on through the workflow. And oftentimes there could be issues associated with that because it might not handle the data properly, or one of the agents might fail. Always possible. But generally speaking, the thing that you should find is that your ability to actually use the LLM in context is actually going to help you speed things up, not slow you down. Now, to the extent that you can actually take that that prompt and then catalog it, save it, and share that with your team as you're going along, so that they understand, your teammates understand that, oh, I actually used Claude to get an answer for this question, and now making that both available in the form of both the prompt as well as the output from Claude. That now, I think, provides you better visibility and helps people actually decide whether or not do we need to have more discussion about this. Because really, I think that's the key piece that the LLM really helps us do. It helps facilitate communication, helps open up new conversations about things we care about, because potentially it's going to actually expose areas that we hadn't really thought about well, or might require additional investigation on our part in order to address effectively.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kenneth. Can see another question that we have got from Achim. Is there a
Sure.
way to create a prompt that adapts a cloud prompt to ChatGPT style or Google Gemini, etc. in sequence?
I'm not sure I understood the question. Could you read that to me again?
Yeah, yeah. I'll do one thing. I'll just send it in the chat, so you'll have. Is there a way to create a prompt that adapts a cloud prompt to ChatGPT style or Google Gemini?
Okay. So number one, do not worry about whether I could have used Gemini, I could have used ChatGPT. I actually use all three of the engines. Now, the thing I would suggest is go through and use your prompts and use the exact same prompt with all three engines. Why? Because even though they are all LLMs, fact of the matter is they are not necessarily going to use all of the same training data. They will have not all drawn the same conclusions based upon the training data that they've seen. You are going to get different responses. So use the same prompt on all three engines, compare and contrast the results. This is actually a really, really good thing to do, because that will actually give you some insight into, well, how was the engine tuned? And you might actually see some things. And one of the things I often will do is I will use a prompt, get a result. I will create that in the form of a markdown document, and then I will pass it to another tool and say, critique this, provide me analysis of this particular markdown file. It is a great way to kind of compare and contrast and to get additional insight into something that you care about without actually having to do a whole bunch of extra work.
Great. Thank you very much, Karen. I hope, Achim, that answers your question. Moving forward to the next question, we have got it from Aditya. If you use similar context and prompt multiple time on same day or over a different day? Will response output vary or it will remain same?
Well, that's a good question too. Because in some cases, some LLMs are actually tuned based upon, and this was quite the case a year ago when it was known that if you're like using ChatGPT, for example, the information in ChatGPT was known to a certain particular point in time at which training data was loaded up. But one of the things that we're seeing now is that from a general internet perspective, the tools have been given the ability to actually query live data on the net. So we're seeing a lot less constraints around information, and I'm not exactly going to call it real time, but let's say near real time, certainly more current than it has ever been. Why? Because now instead of just using what the training data is, we can actually go and actually look at a website and scrape the data off of it and actually use that input as part of what our context is to be able to answer a question. So it's much less of a concern having stale data than it's ever been today.
Great. Thank you so much, Kenneth. We'll be taking this one more question that came from Ron. Before that, I'd like to request all the participants stay connected till the end. I do have some great announcement for all of you regarding the certification and the discount that is going on. So stay connected. And in case if I'm missing any further question, I would request you. Kenneth has already shared his LinkedIn profile link, right? The access. So
Sure.
please do reach out to him and you can take a help from him. I believe that he's more than happy to help you all over there also. So
Absolutely.
please do reach out to him. Yep, that's great. So I'll be reading a question that came from Ron. Okay. Hi, Kengon. What would you recommend a former interactive television visionary who dreamed that any type of content would be available to anyone on any kind of screen at any time, and it would all be immersive and click through? How could AI help them realize their 25-year-old dream? Ha ha ha. Okay, that's funny.
Thank you, Ron. It's definitely a pleasure to see you, and thank you for the question. Um, Without being too cheeky about it, I think that we do have the opportunity to change the interaction model here. And to the extent that we can actually use our LLMs to go through and actually now start pointing at assets, pointing at services, pointing at capabilities that are available, but we may not know about, I think those are good things. And to the extent that we can actually build those now into workflow tools as opposed to having to build these honkin' software structures to be able to identify, choose, and then deliver, whether that's as the distinct artifacts or as streaming content. This is opening up a whole set of interaction models that weren't available to us back in the day when you and I were actually building stuff. I'm actually really excited about what we got available to us today, and I think it's only going to get better and more richer now. Whether or not we're going to continue to uh, see investment in stuff like this, that's a thing that remains to be seen. Love you, Hydrock.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Kenneth, for answering all the questions so far. As we have done with the scheduled time for the Q&A, I'm so sorry if I'm missing any question again. Please do reach out to Kenneth
Yes,
to for any further help. All right. So yes, Kenneth, before I move further with my slides, we would like to hear final thoughts from you for all of us.
sure. So my final thoughts are, number one, I hope that you're walking away from this thinking that this is something that I can do. This does not require superhuman skill. This does not require you to think like a computer, but it does require you to think through your question and ask yourself, if somebody were to ask me this question, do I have enough information to be able to answer it? And if not, how can I actually get additional information or reframe the question in a way that I can now get a response that I can look at and say, oh, yeah, that actually works, or no, that doesn't. And then the second thing is that don't treat things as a one off, right? So ask a question and then consider it as a vehicle for discussion, something you're interested in, and just keep asking questions because you're going to find that it will naturally open up things that are potential interest to you, but you never would have thought to ask on your own. This is, I think, the thing that LLMs can really help us be more effective and be more efficient by giving us new ideas and new ways of interacting that we didn't have before. And plus, an LLM isn't going to say, well, that was a stupid question. Whereas some of your coworkers or your spouse might actually say. Hopefully not,
Great.
but
Thank you so much. Absolutely. Thank you very much for sharing such a wonderful thoughts with us and another amazing session. We really enjoyed it. I can see the comments that we are getting during your session. So thank you very much. We are really grateful for that. So yes, dear participants, as I mentioned that I do have some great announcement for all of you. So this is regarding the today's feature certification, the session that we had on certified prompt engineering. You can opt out for this certification and you can get 20% off on this. You can use this promo code, which is prompt 20 to get an this discount to apply. If you're facing any issue while applying it, please do write to me on preetham@gsdcouncil.org. So I'll check it with our technical team. So please do opt out for the certification. This offer is only valid till this weekend. So it will be after that the price will be high. So go for it. As you all know, the certifications are lifetime validated ones, and which comes along with the learning resources where you'll be getting a lot of case studies to work on, e-learnings and book of knowledge. These certifications are lifelong learnings, which gives you a learning flexibility, and you will be getting chance to connect with our training partner channel. Also, you'll be having a lot of opportunity to work on the capstone project, that is something real time AI simulation practice. So do grab this opportunity and do sign up yourself. I've already shared all the offer details along with the promo code and the link in the chat box, so you can check it out. Also, this is utility tool. You can use this August 100 to access this tool. How this tool will help you? This will help you to build your personal brand. This will help you to improve your LinkedIn profile score, your AI skill score, right? So do grab this opportunity and do sign in yourself with this code. Uh, After using this code, you'll be getting 100% flat 100% off on this, and this is only for our webinar attendees. So check this out and let us know if you're let me know if you're facing any issue. You can write to me at pritam@gsdcouncil.org. So I'm very happy to make this announcement. Next week, we have scheduled a webinar on tackling diagnostic challenges with generative AI in healthcare. So we are conducting webinar in healthcare for the first time in GSDC. So do refer your friends who are into healthcare industry, or you can also join us. This session has scheduled from 6 to 10th October 2025 with the same time slot, that is 8:30 a.m. Central and 9:30 p.m. Singapore time. We do have incredible experts who are into the healthcare industry right now. So do join us for this amazing session that we'll be having next week. And another session that we'll be having, which is scheduled on the second slot, that is 10:30 a.m. Central, 11:30 p.m. Singapore time, and we'll be having this session on solving learning effectiveness challenges in instructional design. Also, we are having this amazing panel of speaker aligned for this as well. So do join us or refer people who are relevant or who are working in this industry, so it will be helpful for them. I've shared the registration link in the chat box. So if you scroll up, you'll find all the registration links along with the WhatsApp registration link, WhatsApp group link in the chat box. Also, you all must be aware that we are running this AI tool challenge, which was earlier scheduled for 28 days. Now we are planning to extend it till 100 days. And yes, we had amazing sessions previously with this amazing panel of speaker AI experts. Now we'll be aligning more speakers. We are inviting more speakers to show us a live demo on the AI tools, right? So do join us for our upcoming upcoming sessions as well. This is started from 18 August onwards with the time slot that is 10:30 a.m. Central, 11:30 p.m. Singapore time. So there will be a slight changes in the time zones, as we'll be having two sessions that I've announced it earlier, AI in healthcare and instructional designer on two slots. So this will be happening on third slot. So we'll be informing you all the timings for this, new timings for this. So yes, we do have these three winners who have referred maximum people to our session. Let's congratulate to them, and we'll be definitely getting back to you for the rewards. And if you want to be speaker for our upcoming event as a future global speaker, yes, you can definitely reach out to us, as we are having platform for you like learning capsule, webinars, and the podcast. Love to connect with you all over the social media. Scan this QR to connect with us over the LinkedIn. You can check our website, that is www.gsdcouncil.org, to get more information regarding the certification that we do have, all the offerings that GSDC has for all of you. And please do share your reviews on the Trustpilot link. I've shared the link in the chat box. So we would understand how you're finding the session, and if there's any feedback, we're open for it. Thank you everyone for joining today's session. I hope to see you all for all upcoming sessions that is scheduled with a GSDC from GSDC. So please do join all the session. Do not miss. Thank you, everyone. We'll be having the next session in next 45 minutes. That is on AI tool. Do join us for that also. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye. Thank you, Kenneth. Bye, everyone.